Is protein powder necessary if I get enough protein from food? I guess all these supplements questions are coming because I put up the subs that I was posting before on my story. But anyway, look, if you're getting enough protein from food, you don't need additional protein from supplements. Supplements are good because when you can't put enough food away, when you've got a high protein requirement, for example, you might not want to try and smash down, half a kilo of meat every day. That's not for everyone, but ballpark figure. So you might want to just ease up on the gut a little bit and stop pushing so much stuff in there, ease it up on digestion and just use a protein powder. Or if you're doing a growth phase, protein powder is great. Generally on a cutting phase, you wouldn't have to really fit protein powder in there once you get to the arse of a deficit, but always serves its purpose. I have protein powder all the way up until when I'm competing. I have it all the way up until I'm about 1 week out, and then I just remove it because whey is lactose, and I don't want dairy. How much do hormones like cortisol, insulin, and estrogen affect my results? This is a massive one again, so I'm going to keep it real basic. They do affect results in a big way. Cortisol can absolutely blunt fatty acid oxidation, so you're not going to burn fat. Insulin, you need insulin to deliver macronutrients where they need to go, basically. That's keeping it real basic. And estrogen, this is a big one. How can estrogen affect my results? Estrogen helps with bone health, joint health, muscle recovery, insulin sensitivity with glucose uptake. Are you really over 40? If you are, how are you always shredded? All right, yes, I am over 40. I'm actually 42. Getting old, huh? Anyway, if you mean by how am I always shredded, because I've been training for a long time and I've got muscle mass, so it helps to keep me lean. It speeds up metabolism. The more muscle mass, the faster your metabolism. So anyway, what happens with males, if this is the question you're asking, because I'm over 40 with metabolism slowing down, when males get to the age of 30, their testosterone declines 1% every year. So by the time you're 40, it's declined 10% in total, which is significant enough to notice. And with that type of decline, you can also lose muscle mass really quickly. So anyone who is not training and is over 40, they're going to lose muscle mass really quickly. And then their metabolism is going to slow down because of the loss of muscle mass, which then gains fat faster. The more fat, the more estrogen, which is another decline in testosterone. So things get worse. So keep training. Apologies. Ran out of time on that slide. But it's not only because I train all the time that I stay leaner, because I eat really clean as well. I don't really want to eat shit because I've just gotten a good habit of eating good, wholesome foods, like now. That's how you stay shredded. What's the best routine to improve sleep quality? Valium. No, just joking. Me personally, for my sleep routine, I make sure that I've got a wake-up alarm and a bedtime alarm. So I try to stick to my bedtime alarm as best possible. Sometimes business gets in the way. Wake up to your wake-up alarm. Don't hit snooze. Just get the fuck up. And every morning I'll do the same thing. I'll do my little rehab routine. Go for a walk because it's great to get daylight or sunlight in the eyes, not directly, obviously, but look in the direction of the sun. It's going to release serotonin, which is the sleep hormone. That way you're going to sleep better at nighttime, get more REM sleep. Your body has a circadian rhythm as well. So if you do this every day and get into the hang of it, get in the routine of it, your body's circadian rhythm will recognize that and you'll be able to sleep easier and easier. Should I train the same muscle multiple times per week? You can train the same muscle multiple times per week. You just need to make sure you have significant recovery time between. If you've still got DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, between training that muscle the second or third time or whatever, don't train it. Let it rest for a little bit longer. But you absolutely can, and you can condition your way into training it. I'd say for females, glutes, or for females or males, glutes are one of the muscles that can be trained 3 times a week. Calves can be trained pretty much every day. Something like back, you'd probably get away with twice. I have previously conditioned myself to train legs 3 times a week, which was crazy. I can't do that anymore. Probably could if I tried to condition myself there again. But yeah, it's all about balance as well. You need to make sure that you're not thrashing yourself and accumulating fatigue, basically. Always got to balance everything nicely. Around 75 sets per week is a pretty good. What signs show my hormones may be off due to training or diet? All right, mood, brain cognition, sleep, recovery, body composition, and all of these are pretty much related to the same hormones, mainly cortisol, estrogen, testosterone, insulin, and thyroid, TSH, T4, T3. Why is it harder to lose fat now than in my 20s or 30s? I'm currently 46 years old. It looks like you're a female as well. Sorry, I'm eating again. Clean food, of course. Anyway, so it's a little bit different to the male one with the testosterone decline, although females do have testosterone that declines as well, which also slows down metabolism. But with females, there's there's premenopausal, perimenopausal, and postmenopausal. At around between 40 to 50, you're probably going through perimenopause. And that's when progesterone starts to decline. So progesterone stimulates estrogen. Estrogen regulates fat mobilization, insulin sensitivity, and metabolism. With the decline in estrogen, that's why it's harder for you to lose weight. Was that the question? Why is it hard? Yeah, that's why it's harder for you to lose fat. Hope that helps anyway. All right, just needed to skip back to this one because my brother-in-law, Simon Says Lift, brought it to my attention what it means by minimum effective doses. This is basically minimum effective doses of training. So basically it's for maintaining muscle or growing. What can you get away with at a bare minimum? You're wanting to do this to absolute failure. So for maintaining muscle, you're looking at, there's been studies that have shown 5 to 10 sets per week, but some people have gotten away with 2 sets. There's been other studies for people who want to grow that are 10 to 20 sets per week per muscle group at going to failure. But then there's other people who have gotten away with 5 sets per week per muscle group. So yeah, it's also very individual specific in regards to age, recovery rate, body type. So yeah, I hope that answers your question a little bit better. And thanks, Simon. How do you figure out your daily macros for each phase? Cut, build, or maintenance? Okay, so we'll start with maintenance. What you want to do is, if you're a female, basically, if you're training and you want to build muscle, obviously, and you're a female, multiply your body weight by roughly 2 to 2.5 even to work out your protein intake. With your fats, get your body weight and go about 1 gram of fat to each body weight kilogram. And with carbohydrates, fill the gap on your calorie total, which will be maintenance for that phase. With the cut, drop carbs, drop fats, keep proteins the same. As carbs go super low and fats get lower, raise your proteins for satiation purpose. And with a build, you pretty much just want to keep your proteins and fats the same, increasing carbohydrates. However, once your carbs get really high, then you can start dropping proteins a little bit because carbohydrates are protein sparing. How can I make lots of chicken easier to eat without adding too many calories, sauces, or recipes? All right, so I'm just going to tell you what I do. What I do is I separate my chicken into bags so that I can have it fresh every day because I want to cook it fresh every morning, because chicken's the one thing that if you cook and put into the fridge and reheat the next day, it's garbage, absolute garbage. It's like chewing rubber. It's disgusting. It doesn't taste any good either. So I'll tell you exactly what I do. I get my bulk amount of chicken and I separate how much chicken I need for every day, put it into sandwich bags, throw all them in the refrigerator aside from one, which I'll keep in the fridge. So then every morning I can get up, I can make my chicken fresh, chuck it in the air fryer as soon as I wake up, go have a shower, brush my teeth, come back out, flip my chicken over, press cook again, do my rehab work, my few leg stretches and stuff that I do every single morning, and then my chicken's ready for the day. And I haven't wasted any time waiting for it or anything like that, and it's fresh. I put salt, video's about to stop. Apologies, the video cut off, and I just realized that I said separate the chickens and put them into the refrigerator, and then I put the other bit into the fridge. It's the same thing. I meant to say I put them all into the freezer, aside from one that I put into the fridge. So I can pull it out in the morning, and then when I do pull it out in the morning, I'll take the next one out of the freezer to defrost. Now, what I was about to say on the last one before the video cut me off is I put salt, I put turmeric, I put black pepper, cayenne pepper, and I do sprinkle some breadcrumbs on top of it as well, but that's only because I can fit that into my calories. That's extra calories right there. You wouldn't want to do that in any other case scenario. So yeah, that's how I do my chicken. Hope that helps. What's your opinion on artificial? Wow, this is like my 5th take because for some reason I can't say artificial sweetness. What's your opinion on artificial sweetness? I don't have much of an opinion on them. I think they're shit. Personally, I don't touch them because when you get down in weight and you get quite lean, your gut microbiome starts to become really sensitive, and you can tell what kind of havoc they're running in there when you're that sensitive to things. So just knowing that makes me steer clear from them, because yeah, they're running havoc in your digestive system. You need your digestive system to absorb things properly, and you want things to function properly. So it will block you up eventually as well. But if you're eating like shit every day, you got shit in your diet, an artificial sweetener is probably not going to do much, because you're used to feeling like shit and probably functioning like shit anyway. So just, if you want to get healthy, if you want to achieve some good results, just get in the right mentality to steer clear from artificial. How do you modify programs for perimenopause or menopause? Well, I don't really modify them. I set them up like that from the beginning. A lot of people that I deal with are perimenopause and menopausal. So if you're being opposed to what I would do for myself or what I would do for someone who's premenopause, it would or postmenopausal. The only difference would be postmenopausal would be the more extreme version. But in regards to programming, it's kind of just a decrease in volume compared to what I'd give to, someone who's under 40. But most of it comes down to nutrition. It's usually more so an increase of protein, a decrease of carbohydrates, and not a massive decrease in carbohydrates. And, fats, they're kept a little bit lower than they would be pre-40s. Yeah, that's it. I hope that answers the question. How do you handle clients with disordered eating, tendencies or poor food relationships? I think that's the same thing. Disordered eating tendencies really is a poor food relationship, I think. Anyway, the answer to that is that's what I do. That's what coaches do, really. Everyone who comes to us has a poor food relationship, and that's why they're at where they're at. So they come to us so they can fix that. And what we do is keep those people accountable. Keep them on track, make a plan, keep them on track, and keep them accountable. That's it. I should really finish my mouthful before I start reading these, because I'm just praying that I don't spit rice at the camera, because I am eating my meal while I'm doing this. But anyway, should us females train when we're on a menstrual cycle or let our body rest? You don't need to let your body rest, but I would recommend you do pull back intensity, because when you're on the menstrual cycle, you do lose strength. So pulling back on intensity a little bit is definitely valid for when you have your menstrual cycle. How do you calculate maintenance calories after a cut or bulk? Calculating maintenance calories is the same all the time, regardless if you're after a cut or a bulk. Maintenance is maintenance. You get a calorie calculator, you'll multiply it by your body weight, your height, and all that type of stuff. So it's completely body weight dependent. It doesn't matter to body weight and activity dependent, of course. Body weight, age, height, and activity dependent. I should have said that. Sorry, I'm getting a little mixed up. But yeah, maintenance is maintenance. How do you approach reverse dieting after a fat loss phase? All right, so me personally, what I do with my clients, I'll make sure the calorie total doesn't go up that much that your body thinks it's going into a surplus and start accumulating fat. I'll slowly, first of all, re-implement carbohydrates. Proteins should stay about the same, depending where they're at. But the re-implementation of carbohydrates would be first, not too much, fill up the muscle glycogen a bit, and then that would be basically week 1. The following week, I'd start to implement fat a little bit more, not too quickly, because you don't want to suffer from adipocyte hyperplasia. So I'd probably do it over a 2 or 3 week period, usually depending on the body weight, depending on the calorie gap. Like I said, just as long as your body doesn't think that it's going straight into a surplus. So just small increments, going up in carbs and then fats. Yeah, not too fast on the fats. Be careful of that one. What's a good institution to study nutrition, fitness, personal trainer at? Oh, so many of them have gone under. All the good ones from back in my day they're gone. But anyway, one that's still standing from back in my day that's always had good rapport is Australian Institute of Personal Trainers, or Australian Institute of Personal Trainer. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, AIPT. How many weeks of progressive overload before I can hit a deload week? That's very individual specific. Depends on age, depends on weight, depends on where you're at with your fitness journey. But I'd say for someone who's, let's say, intermediate, who's doing about 75 to 85 sets weekly total volume, you're looking at you should be able to push and progress if you're training hard with an RPE of 10 on the last set of each exercise, and I'd say 1 rep in reserve on all other working sets, you're looking at about 7 weeks of progressive overload before you're really going to start to fatigue. You'll start to lose motivation to train, and then you want to take a deload for fatigue management. Apologies, it looks like I missed a couple of questions on the Q&A the other day. They just popped up in my notifications now, but thoughts on microdosing Retta versus single shot versus bi-weekly. All right, so I'll just tell you personally from my experience, I just do weekly. I did try microdosing. I didn't really like it because I felt like I couldn't get the food down that I needed to get down. So I went back to weekly, and the only time I would microdose is on the days if I feel like I needed to microdose. It wasn't scheduled or planned. I wouldn't bother scheduling microdosing. So yeah, just microdose accordingly. And in regards to bi-weekly, I wouldn't know because I haven't tried it. I want to know about peptides. Okay, so basically peptides are short chain amino acids, mini proteins, which allow them to travel through the body a lot quicker and be effective for things that need to be fast action, like insulin, for example, is a peptide that controls blood glucose. What else can peptides be used for? So there's anti-aging factor, skin health, hair health, muscle growth, burning fat, immune function. Yeah, there's a whole wide range of things that peptides do. If clients don't eat chicken, what do you recommend incorporating into their diet? All right, so generally chicken, if you're talking about chicken breast, obviously, is implemented into a diet because it's a lean source of protein. First go-to after that would be another source of lean meat. If there's absolutely no meat they can have, WPI. Just need to make up the protein quota. But yeah, definitely just another lean source of meat. How to not lose momentum with training when managing injuries, chronic reoccurring injuries. Well, first of all, don't train through them, but you're going to lose momentum if you do stop training because that's part of momentum, like you got to keep it going. So what I do generally with clients, if clients are injured, just say they fractured their left arm or something like that, pardon me, I will get them to continue training. I will get them to continue training the right side because the human body has an amazing ability to catch up. So it will balance itself back out pretty quickly. It's not like you're going to just have one massive side and one small side because it's undertrained. It will balance out and catch up. So keep training whatever side isn't injured and catch the other side up later. Hope that makes sense. Or, one time I tore my... I think what this question means is, do you need to eat clean to get lean, or do you need to be in a calorie deficit? You absolutely need to be in a calorie deficit to get lean, because what a maintenance is means that you're maintaining the right amount of calories to what your body burns a day. Whereas if you're in a deficit, you're not getting the correct amount of calories in that your body needs to burn every day. You're getting under, which means it's going to use fat stores as energy, and that's how you get leaner. You start using those fat stores as energy. So you absolutely need to be in a calorie deficit to get lean. Apologies about a late response on this one. It got pushed right down because notifications pushed it right down, but I found it now. How much should I train abs pre-week? I'm doing it every morning for about 10 minutes with diet. I don't get what that means. Abs with diet, it's two complete different things right there. Diet will get your abs though. And pre-week, that must just be a typo. So basically, it doesn't matter how much you train abs, really. You can train them every day. I train them every day with my rehab work that I do every single morning without failure. I'll chuck abs in there as well because it helps me with my posture too. So abs help with posture too. Don't forget about that, and don't neglect abs. So you can train them every day if you want. You can train them every second day. You can train them once a week. It doesn't matter too much. At least you're getting them trained. But training them every day is absolutely okay. And I think this is from one of my clients. I have it on your program as 3 times weekly, by the way. Thoughts on recomp? Would you recommend if cal's low and hard to comply? Well, essentially recomp is burning fat and building muscle. So on the burning fat side of things, calories will be low. They should be low. Well, calories need to be in a deficit anyway to burn the fat. And in regards to it being hard to comply, if you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to get hungry. If it's too hard basket, then you're probably not going to be able to burn fat. So really you just need to get your head around the burning fat part of things and embrace hunger, make hunger your friend, because when you're getting hungry, what's happening is your body's releasing ghrelin. because you're burning off fat. Your body wants to hold on to this fat in case there's a famine. It needs to use fat as fat is stored energy, essentially. So nobody ever said burning fat was going to be easy, but challenge is where people grow. Should I track my workouts or just go by feel? Always track workouts. You want to train with progressive overload, so you need to track that to know what you did the week prior. You're not always going to remember. If you're just going by feel, you're not going to remember, like I just said. And you're probably not going to progress at a very fast rate. However, there is one vector that can be done by feel, and that's deload for fatigue management. If you're tracking and you've got a deload coming up, you'll notice that usually that is implemented if you're practicing progressive overload properly. That's usually implemented. You start to dial up around the 6 to 7 week mark, and then eighth week you'd need a deload. But that's one you'd want to track by feel, because you might bomb out earlier than that, and you'd want to deload earlier. You can always tell when you need to deload because you start to lose motivation to train a lot. How can I increase my mind-muscle connection? This is actually an interesting one. So really, with practice comes perfection, but I'll tell you what I do personally. I will just say, for example, if I'm using a chest-supported row, I'll sit down, I'll put my chest against the padding, and then I'll close my eyes and I'll imagine that I'm squeezing blood into the muscle. Using good technique, squeeze blood into the muscle. So by squeezing blood into the muscle, I mean when you're contracting, you're squeezing blood in there. That's what I do personally anyway, so that's my advice. Can you give me advice on what I should be eating? Well, that's a pretty broad question, isn't it? I'm not sure what your goal is, and I'm not sure what you're intolerant to, but anyway, I'm going to generalize this one, and based on a post that I did not too long ago anyway. So basically, you want to eat your proteins, your fats, your carbs, your fiber tracked. You want your 5 serves of veg a day, 2 to 3 serves of fruit a day. You want your fiber to be 10 to 15 grams per 1,000 calories that you're ingesting. You want protein to be about, if you're training, somewhere between 2 and 3 grams per body weight kilogram. Your fats you want to be 0.8 to 1 gram per body weight kilogram. And with carbohydrates, just fill the rest of your gap to whatever your calorie total is. You can lower hemoglobin simply by hydration. If you hydrate properly, it's going to increase blood plasma volume, which will decrease hemoglobin. If you're dehydrated, it's going to concentrate the blood. But there's another modality you could use, which is giving blood. If you donate blood, you can take hemoglobin down about 5 to 10%. But you just got to watch out with that one, because if you've already got low iron and low ferritin levels, then you could bump into more potential problems. If it is caused by high iron, you can always reduce iron absorption by having tea and coffee with meals, or you can completely block iron absorption with calcium. Hope that helped. During a cut, you are going to flatten out with muscle glycogen, so you're going to look flat and you will look skinnier, but it's perfectly normal. Like if you're not flattening out during a cut, then you're probably not doing it right. You still got more fat to lose. Just deal with being flat for a while, because once you reintroduce more higher carbohydrates, you're going to feel back out and you're going to be back to how you were in no time, but just a ripped, more shredded version, depending on how lean you're getting, of course. Everyone with the ability to walk should be doing 7,500 bare minimum steps daily. That's for maintenance. If you're looking at losing weight, you want to bump it up to about 10K on average, just for a first phase of deficit anyway, to lose weight. Now, this is a weird question. I don't think that personal trainers believe a lot of people's lies. Generally, we can see straight through them because we're so used to it. There is a common lie that people say they're not slipping off their diet, but I don't know if anyone believes it or not. What's another one? There's always the common lie of compliance when compliance hasn't been met and results show that compliance hasn't been met. Other than that, I think people just, I don't know if anyone lies about anything aside from diet, really. Not too sure. I haven't done PT for a long time, so I don't know what's going on in that industry at the moment as much. In regards to online coaching or coaching that I do, a common lie would just be people's diet adherence, and I don't think they even mean it. They just put like a 10 out of 10 adherence or 9 out of 10 adherence when really it was probably a 4 out of 10 adherence or a 5 out of 10 adherence. And results go to show anyway what their adherence has actually been. So yeah, I think that's the most common lie, is just about compliance when they're not actually compliant, but I don't know if it's a lie or not, or if it's just people's judgment. I also have stubborn calves, and I used to train them twice a week thinking they were going to grow. They wouldn't budge no matter how much I thrashed them. So train them every single day that you're in the gym. Don't train them on your rest days, obviously, but every time you're in the gym, finish up your workout with a calf exercise, either seated calf raises or standing calf raises. They're the best, I think. And yeah, you're guaranteed to see them grow. I've been doing it for about 2 years now, every single time I'm in the gym, and they have finally started to grow. At the beginning, it was a little boring, yes, but once I got used to it and once I started seeing results, it was no longer boring because the results outweighed the fun side of eating, and the brain clarity that you get from eating clean foods consistently is next level. It's made me really productive as well. So it's not really boring, it's just much more functional, and I get much more done in life by eating these clean functional foods. And by eating the same thing every day, it's not really the same thing. It's just clean, wholesome foods. Yes, I do have my staples like my rice, chicken, and veg, but around that, I might change things up with oats or cereals or beef meals instead of the chicken. There's a lot of things that get changed. Might have an eye fillet steak or something like that. So there's still variety there. It's just the same clean foods all the time. Becoming food focused during a cutting phase is the number one thing that's going to fuck things up. So don't become food focused. It's not so much food focused, it's because you're hungry. So if you focus on hunger from a different perspective, where you're not just thinking about food with hunger, and rather thinking about what's happening internally, hormonally and everything, like the ghrelins being released, that's why you're hungry, and that's happening because you're burning through the fat that you're trying to burn through while you're in this cutting phase. So if you think about it like that, you want to embrace hunger. If you can embrace hunger through a cutting phase and understand that when you're hungry is when you're most likely going to wake up looking better, feeling lighter, more energized, and all the rest of it, then you won't become so food focused, and hunger can be your best friend. This is a very broad, individual specific question, so I'm going to focus more on my own. So I would consider leg press, the 45-degree leg press, as an absolute non-negotiable, because I always superset from leg press straight into a calf press, and that's my whole lower body being trained. And there's no lower back stress for that because I suffer from some lower back issues. So that's always a non-negotiable. That's half the body done. That's the lower half done. And for the upper, for myself, like this, as I said, it's going to be very individual specific. A lot of females wouldn't do this because they might have breast implants or they just not interested in growing their chest. But I would say some kind of a bench press. Mine at the moment, my go-to at the moment is a dumbbell press, just so I can get all the stabilizer muscles retrained again, because I was a little bit wonky when I got back into it. But yeah, definitely some kind of upper body press. And of course, your back. You cannot forget rows and lat pull downs, because that's going to help you a lot with posture, and that's super important too.